Loneliness. It's probably the hardest emotion we have to deal with. It's not dramatic like anger. It's not loud like panic. It's just there. Quiet. Heavy. And if you sit in it too long, it starts to feel like it's staining your thoughts. The lack of companionship, community, or even just somebody checking in can become crippling. And not in some poetic way either. Like in a very real, I don't want to get out of bed kind of way. I want to be clear. I'm not talking about some self-sought loneliness. That kind is healthy sometimes. That's the my day was insane, I need to be alone for a second before I snap type of alone. That's not loneliness. That's decompression. I'm talking about the loneliness that's forced on you. The kind that shows up uninvited and then doesn't leave. The kind that makes the room feel bigger than it should. The kind that can drive you mad if you let it loop in your head for long enough. Loneliness is easier when it's for a goal, like you're grinding for something. Money, school, fitness, whatever. At least there's a reason. At least there's an end point you can point at and say, okay, I'm doing it for this or for that. But when you're stuck in it, unwilling, when it's not a choice and it just becomes your normal, that's when it gets dangerous. So what am I getting at? Well, video games are one of the best cures for loneliness I have ever experienced. And it comes from their weird complexity with the human condition. And that sounds dramatic, but I mean it in the simplest of ways. Games don't just distract you, they keep you company. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes by accident, but it happens nonetheless. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Hi, my name is Pojeki, your friend and guide through all things nerdy. And today you and I are going to be talking about the different ways video games help loneliness and sometimes the different ways they actually show it. When Diablo 4 launched, I beat the game with two of my closest friends. Let's call them Nick and Matt for privacy reasons. And we went through that game with a fine comb. We were laughing, we were messing around, we were talking about the story, we were complaining about the loot, we were doing the whole, wait, come look at this, every 5 minutes. It was a great time. One of those sessions where you get off the game and you're still laughing about it while you brush your teeth. And because it's such a good time, I made a second character. I decided to run it by myself too. Same game, same world, same combat, same everything. And I'm not exaggerating when I say I felt loneliness immediately. The boredom hit harder, the silence hit harder. The game suddenly felt colder. Not worse, just colder. It wasn't nearly as enjoyable, even though I still liked the core game. And that's when it clicked for me. What made it so fun wasn't just Diablo. It was the fact I was playing with it, with them. They were there. They were witnessing my runs. They were reacting to things with me. Every dumb moment had somebody to laugh at it. Every clutch fight had somebody to hype me up. It mattered because it was shared. So after we beat the game, we deleted it, and we didn't go back for a very long time. Fast forward to late 2025. I downloaded Diablo 4 again because they introduced a new class, the Paladin, and there was a campaign expansion already there that I had missed. I started playing it, and I'm expecting the same lonely feeling I had the last time I tried to run it solo. But instead, I'm instantly happier. Like within an hour, I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is different. And it was, because they added something so small, but so crucial. They added a companion. Somebody who follows you around, throws little quips, and fights alongside you. A virtual friend who is just, well, there with you most of the time. And I know how that sounds. It sounds really silly. It sounds like it shouldn't matter. But it mattered. It worked. I finished the whole thing and I'm still playing Diablo 4 as we speak, right now. All of this made me realize something. Is it really that simple to help defeat loneliness in a video game? Like, is the secret ingredient literally just presence? Just having someone beside you, even if they're just pixels on a screen, even if they're just code, even if they're not real? Because with friends, it's obvious why it works. They laugh with you. They casually talk about lore. You talk about the game. You don't even need to talk about your actual lives. And it still helps because there's somebody there. Somebody to share the moment with. Somebody to make the world feel a little less empty. And then that thought spiraled into another thought that I think is kind of at the heart of this whole thing. What good is getting a victory royale if no one is there to know you did it? What good is beating the final boss or pulling the rare drop or having that insane clutch moment if it just disappears into silence the second it happens? So, let's talk about games where you're technically alone, but you're not really alone. The games that quietly cheat loneliness by giving you a companion, a partner, a presence, or something that sits next to you in the world. Jedi Fallen Order is an easy one. BD1 is not just a tool. He's not just a gadget you carry around. He's a little creature that reacts to things. He's always with you. He's helping you, chirping at you, doing his little animations, being this tiny, consistent someone in a universe that would otherwise feel very empty. You're running around these huge spaces, doing this lonely Jedi survivor thing, and BD1 is the difference between this is peaceful and this is isolating. Red Dead Redemption is another one, and I know, it's funny to call a horse a companion, but if you've played it, you already know what I mean. That horse is with you constantly. You take care of it, you feed it, you brush it, you ride it for long stretches with nothing but wind and music, and somehow it doesn't feel lonely because you're not alone. You have a presence with you that turns the world into a journey instead of a void. Losing that horse feels like losing something real, and that alone tells you that this game did a great job. Detroit Become Human does this in a different way. You can be alone as the player, but the whole game is built around relationships. Hank, Alice, these characters aren't just plot devices, they are witnesses. They react to you, they judge you, they trust you, or they don't. The game makes you feel watched in a way that gives your choices weight, and that being witness thing matters more than people can admit. Halo is another perfect example, especially early on in Halo 1 with the Marines. The Marines aren't deep characters, but they talk, they panic, they shout, they celebrate, they complain. They make fights feel like something you survived with a group instead of something you did in a vacuum. And later, when you have the Arbiter, it becomes a different kind of companionship. But it's still companionship. You're not just a camera with a gun, you're a part of a team. Minecraft is the funniest example because it's just so simple. You can be the most lonely game in the world ever. Huge map, endless landscape, just you and the music. And then you tame a dog, and suddenly the entire game changes. You're not wandering anymore. You're traveling with somebody. That little teleport behind you mechanic does more emotional work than it has any right to do. Bioshock is a weird one, because you're quote-unquote not alone, in a way that's almost sinister. Fontaine talking to you the whole time feels like company. It feels like guidance. It feels like someone is there with you even through the chaos. And that's part of what makes it so hard when you realize what's really happening. Even companionship could be manipulation. Even the feeling of someone is with me can be used against you. And that's important, because not every game is curing loneliness in a wholesome way. Some of them are showing how vulnerable we really are to it. And then there's Outer Wilds. You have companions in that game, but I'm going to be honest, Sam is my companion. That's it. That's the one. I refuse to allow anyone else to be my companion in that game. And no, I will not be elaborating. We're moving on now. So yeah, the pattern is obvious once you see it. Companions, chatter, someone following you, someone reacting to you, someone existing with you in the world. Games do it constantly. Even games that are technically single player, technically quote-unquote solo, are often designed to keep you from feeling truly lonely and abandoned. And then there are games that just don't do it accidentally to help with loneliness. They build loneliness on purpose. They make it the point. They make it the atmosphere. They make it the mechanic. And honestly, when it's done right, it hits harder than a big speech about mental health ever could because you feel it, not because someone told you to. Halo 3 ODST is one of the cleanest examples that I can think of, because Halo ODST isn't Halo in the way people usually mean it. It's not the you're the chosen one, It's not the you're the unstoppable hero. It's not even you're the last hope. ODST is you're a guy. You're a human. You're small. You're dropped into a city that's already been chewed up and spit out. And the game makes you sure feel that. The streets are quiet in a way that feels wrong. The skyline is empty. The music is lonely. The lighting is lonely. Even the way you move through the city, slow, searching, piecing together things, feels lonely. The game is basically whispering at you the entire time, you are not supposed to be here by yourself. And that's why the emotional loop works so well, because ODST is a game about separation and reunion. You spend so much time wandering through the streets of New Mombasa trying to figure out what happened, trying to find your team, following breadcrumbs that feel like they're already cold. And then when you do catch a glimpse of one of them, when you play their sections, there's this weird comfort in it. Not just because the actions pick up, but because it reminds you that there are other living, breathing people in this story. You're not the only dot on the map. But here's the thing that makes ODST even nastier, in a good way. You're not quote-unquote alone, but you're actually not really alone at all. You have someone by your side. You have Virgil. And I know, Virgil isn't your buddy cracking jokes next to you. Virgil isn't BD1 chirping at you every 10 seconds. Virgil is a little quieter. Virgil's distant. Virgil's almost ghost-like. But that's what makes it perfect. Because loneliness doesn't always get cured by loud companionship. Sometimes, loneliness gets cured by presence. By the idea that something else is out there with you. That you're being guided. That you're not wandering in a dead city with nothing but your own thoughts, chewing on you.
Crime doesn't pay.
Virgil turns ODST into this slow, haunting conversation. Not a conversation with words, necessarily, but a conversation through direction, through signals, through the way the world is nudging you forward. It's like the game understands something really human. When you're alone long enough, your own mind becomes the loudest thing in the room. And the loudest thing in the room is not always your friend. That's why silence is dangerous. Silence is where doubt breeds. Silence is where your brain starts creating monsters out of nothing. Silence is where you replay the same thoughts until they start sounding like truth. And that's where I want to take a quick sidestep outside of games for a second, because this isn't a new idea. This is ancient, like Greek mythology ancient. Orpheus and Eurydice is basically the oldest story I know that understands what loneliness does to the mind. Orpheus goes into the underworld and does the impossible. He earns Eurydice back from Hades. He's told one rule: don't look back. Just keep walking. Just trust she's behind you. And what happens? He gets close to the exit and he looks back. And that moment isn't just a he messed up. That moment is doubt. That moment is the sickness that grows in the quiet. Because imagine that walk. Imagine how long it must have felt like. Imagine hearing nothing, feeling nothing. No hands on your shoulders, no voice, just footsteps and darkness. The mind starts to do what the mind does best. What if she isn't there? What if I got tricked? What if I'm walking alone like an idiot? What if I'm about to step out and realize I'm still by myself? That's loneliness. Loneliness creates doubt. Doubt creates desperation. And desperation makes you break the one rule that would have saved you. And games get this. That's why the companion thing matters so much. That's why a horse matters. That's why a robot matters. That's why Marines yelling dumb stuff in the background matters.
Hey, fathead, knock it off!
Because sometimes the difference between I can keep going and I'm going to fold is just the reassurance that you're not walking through the dark alone. You see this in more games than people realize, especially games that are brave enough to let you sit in the quiet for a while. Like Journey. Journey is basically loneliness made beautiful. It's you in a vast world with no dialogue, no map, no explanations. Just sand and ruins and distance. And then, if you're lucky, another player shows up. No voice chat, no usernames, no real communication beyond movement and little sounds. But the emotional difference is immediate. Suddenly you're not just traveling, you're traveling with someone. And even when you don't know them, even when you can't speak, the presence changes everything. It becomes a shared pilgrimage instead of a lonely walk. Or Death Stranding. People joke about it, but Death Stranding is quite literally built around the idea that connection is survival. The whole world is isolating on purpose. The terrain fights you, the weather fights you, the enemies are weird and invisible and terrifying, and the quote-unquote multiplayer is the smartest kind. You don't run into crowds of people, you run into evidence that people exist. A ladder left by somebody, a rope somebody placed, a bridge that wasn't there before, a sign that says, "You got this." And it sounds cheesy, but when you're deep into that game and you're exhausted and you're trying to cross some nightmare mountain and you see that someone made it easier for you, oh, it hits. It hits because you feel witnessed, you feel helped, you feel like you're a part of something even if you'll never see a single face or ever know who made it. But if you want a darker version of that idea, you can look at games that intentionally weaponize loneliness against you. In Subnotica, the ocean is gorgeous, and it's so terrifying. You're alone in a way that feels primal, and the game gives you choices and voices, AI, radio messages, logs, just enough to keep you sane while still reminding you that you are extremely, and I mean extremely, isolated. The companionship comes in fragments, and the loneliness is the pressure. It's the deep water pressing on your chest, even when you're not underwater. In Hellblade, Senua's sacrifice, loneliness and isolation are what haunts you the entire time. The voices, the whispers, the constant commentary. It's companionship twisted into something invasive. It's what happens when your mind becomes a crowded room, but you still feel alone inside of it. That game understands how isolation makes your thoughts feel like they're turning on you. It's not comforting. It's not meant to be. But it's real in a way that's hard to shake. Even something like The Last of Us plays with this. A lot of that game is quiet walking, quiet scavenging, quiet dread. And the reason the relationship matters so much is because it breaks the silence. It's companionship under pressure. It's two people surviving, and the conversation, even when it's small, keeps the world from feeling like a grave. And this is why Halo 3 ODST works so well for me in this conversation. Because ODST isn't trying to hide that loneliness, it's using it. It's building it into a way you move, the way you listen, the way you search, the way the city feels like it's holding its breath. And then it reminds you, you're separated, not abandoned. You are alone right now, but you're still part of a team. The game is basically the opposite of Orpheus. It's saying, keep walking, keep trusting. Don't let the silence convince you you're the only one left. And honestly, I think that's the real magic trick video games pull when they help loneliness. It's not that they delete the feeling, it's that they interpret the spiral. They give your brain something to hold on to. A voice, a companion, a mission, a sign, a dog, a horse, a robot, a teammate you haven't found yet, but you know is out there. Because loneliness loves to tell you that the worst story is possible. It loves to narrate your life like you're the only character on screen. And games, at their best, push back against that by making your existence echo. They answer you, they react to you, they remind you what you do matters somewhere to someone, even if it's virtual, even if it's small. And if you've ever had a game do that to you, if you ever felt that shift from I'm alone to I'm okay, you already understand what I'm saying without me getting all philosophical about it. So I want to ask you, what game kept you company when you needed it? Not the best game you've ever played, not the one with the highest Metacritic score, the one that felt like it was sitting next to you when the room got too quiet. Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to see what other people have to say. Because the truth is, a lot of us are walking through New Mombasa in our own heads, and sometimes, just knowing there's a Virgil out there, some sign of life, some signal, some presence, is enough to keep you moving. I've been Pojeki, your friend and guide through all things nerdy, and I'll see you in the next one.